Hey everyone, Peter Haskins here with another 15-minute Matthew Bible study. This is my front porch. Welcome to my front porch and welcome to a beautiful September 2nd morning in Vincennes, Indiana. And just wonderful to have you here with me. And behind me you see my blue house, and I'm here on the front porch doing a Bible study on finishing up the second chapter of Matthew. So, as we had talked about the Magi, the last Bible study. So we're going to be talking a lot about Joseph dreaming, and we're going to talk about Egypt. I'm going to read this section here. It's only about 11 verses here. It's just the rest of chapter 2 is through verse 23. We're going to be starting with verse 13. The escape to Egypt here. Now, after they had left, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream and said, "Get up, take the child and his mother and flee to Egypt and remain there until I tell you, for Herod is about to search for the child and to destroy him." Then Joseph got up, took the child and his mother by night, and went to Egypt and remained there until the death of Herod. This was to fulfill what had been spoken by the Lord through the prophet, "Out of Egypt I've called my son." So, basically, this is that's from Hosea, the reference there. As we had talked about before, the writers of Matthew wasn't someone named Matthew. It wasn't one person. It was a group of people who were competing with the conservatives who were focusing on the Torah after the destruction of the temple in 70 AD. So there was competition. Imagine that there were politics in the church even back then. That's crazy to think that, but it's true. The more things change, the more things stay the same. Okay, so just in the birth story itself in Matthew, the writers of Matthew are trying to show that Jesus is the Messiah, not Moses. Jesus is the new Moses. That's why he's coming out of Egypt. He goes back into Egypt here. Goes back into Egypt, and it's coming out, and there's just rich connection with Egypt here. We have to maintain that idea there. My neighbor next door is doing something with a saw. Anyway, so excuse him for doing that right in the middle of our Bible study. But anyway, Jesus is the fulfillment of the Torah in Matthew chapter 1:22, chapter 2:5, 2:15, 2:17, and 2:23. So just in the little section that we're going to be reading here, the 11 verses, 3 times the book of Matthew says this was to fulfill what had been spoken by the Lord through the prophet, through Hosea. So it's constantly bringing this back. So it's basically just not letting you forget that it is really, Matthew is trying to prove that Jesus is the Messiah. So this birth story in particular, and I want to focus on a couple of things, but just real quick, you know how I like Christmas, you know how I like the Christmas ties and stuff, but also one of my favorite things to put on a Christmas tree is tinsel. Do you know where the tinsel idea comes from? And I've told this in a this is a great children's sermon, by the way. If any of you are out there like, hey, what am I going to do for a children's sermon in this post-COVID days? Tinsel. In this story that I just read, how they have them fleeing to Egypt, there is a story that did not make it into the Bible, and it talks about how when they were on their way escaping Herod, who was really going to kill them, at least Jesus, and what Joseph and Mary, big deal. I mean, this is a brutal guy. Most authoritarians are brutal people and very feral in their nature, not to be trusted. So the story goes that one of the nights that they were traveling, because they were just, riding a donkey or a horse or some type of animal into Egypt, and they had to stop in a cave at night, and they stopped in the cave and they hunkered down, and the soldiers were after them. The Roman soldiers were literally on their tail, and during the night, through the mouth of the cave, a spider came along and wove a whole bunch of spider webs over the mouth of the cave where Jesus and Joseph and Mary were in the cave. So the Roman soldiers come along and they think, no one's been in there for months and months and months, because there are all these cobwebs over the mouth of the cave, so they didn't even try to go in there and search. But if they had gone in there to search, they would have found Jesus and they would have killed him. So the tinsel on your Christmas tree that you didn't even know about, that I didn't even know about until I heard this story, I read this story, those are spider webs. The tinsel, it's not ice or snow or anything. It's the spider webs. This symbolizes, even in nature, all of creation was protecting Jesus. So I love that story. So the tinsel, spider webs, Jesus, Egypt. All right. So I'm going to read this next section here. When Herod saw that he had been tricked by the wise men, he was infuriated. He was king, and how dare they lie to him? Okay? That was my impersonation of Herod. How dare they? I am king. Right? And he sent and killed all the children in and around Bethlehem who were 2 years old or under, according to the time that he had learned from the wise men. Then was fulfilled by what had been spoken through the prophet Jeremiah. Here again, this is the fulfillment of the Messiah. A voice was heard in Ramah, wailing and loud lamentation, Rachel weeping for her children. She refused to be consoled because they are no more. So, this is horrible. I mean, think about this. So, as we see our day and age, all the threats and all the things that are happening in our day and age, injustice and riots and the made up stories about everything that's going on and the things that are actually going on, and how you have to wade through and pick out what is true. It's a very difficult time. We have to remember that this stuff, this oppression of innocence, the injustices have been going on for a long time. So it's been calculated that in and around Bethlehem, according to how many people would live there and what was the mortality rate, there would have been around 60 children under 2 years old. It's about 60 children, 2 years, boys, toddlers, and infants were murdered by Roman soldiers just to try to get at Jesus, just in case he was hiding out around Bethlehem. So this is horrific. I mean, can you imagine? What that must have been like? So then it says, verse 19, when Herod died, an angel of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt and said, so they're in Egypt, remember. He says to him, get up and take the child and his mother and go to the land of Israel, for those who were seeking the child's life are dead. Then Joseph got up, took the child and his mother, and went to the land of Israel. But when he heard that Archelaus was ruling over Judea in the place of his father Herod, he was afraid to go there, because there was this huge fight between Herod's kids afterward, and these children of Herod did not fall far from the apple tree, and were not too sharp, but they were brutal. Great combination, huh? Not very sharp and brutal as an authoritarian. And after being warned in a dream, remember this, in a dream, he went away to the district of Galilee. There he made his home in a town called Nazareth, so that what had been spoken through the prophets might be fulfilled. He will be called a Nazarene. So, I mean, here we are, another reference to the Old Testament and Jesus and Moses and the prophets. There's this real sense that Jesus is the answer. So the idea here that when you read these few verses of Joseph, see how prominent, and Joseph really doesn't get as much credit as he should. He really doesn't. I think that he is underestimated. I am a stepdad. And any of you out there who are listening, whether you go to our church or not, or you're listening from wherever you're at, and you are a stepdad, let me just say a little word to you as a truck is coming by. It's very loud. Oh, it's a fire truck. Hey, I know him. That's David McCormick. Hey. I know that fireman. That's awesome. That's awesome. I don't know why I got excited about that. Anyway, I like David so much. Anyway, there was no fire. Nothing's happening. I don't hear anything happening. So it's okay. David's fine. Everyone's fine. But if you are a stepdad, let me just tell you this. Being a stepdad is a big deal. And it is a difficult job, especially when you have the biological father in around, or if they're not around. You are taking that child and you are nurturing them, and you are loving them, and you are giving them a greenhouse, so to speak, to grow up in. And you and your job as a stepfather, or stepmother even, but when we're talking about Joseph here, we're talking about stepfathers, but stepmother too, your job is important. Your job is really important. Look at what Joseph did with Jesus, protecting him, listening to his dreams. In this section alone, Joseph has 2 dreams that he has to interpret, that he has to say, oh, I'm supposed to go. And he goes out and he actually listens when he needs to leave for Egypt, stay there for a couple years, maybe longer, and then when it's time to come back, when he comes back. And he comes back in Israel and he goes to a specific place. So Joseph is a stepdad. He's not the biological father of Jesus. He has to listen to his dreams. He has to listen to God through these dreams. He has to not worry about if he tells someone, hey, I had a dream and God spoke to me and I'm going to go back to Israel, or I'm going to go and run away and go to with my family and I'm going to go to Egypt. I mean, can you imagine the naysayers, especially if people knew that Jesus was the one they were after and they killed 60 kids around Bethlehem? You think there was a little negativity? Oh, are you the Joseph? Is this the Jesus? Oh, really? I mean, this is not a cakewalk. I mean, this was a rough time, rough decisions. And again, just like with the Magi from the last Bible study, they're having to make these decisions, and they're having to be bold. But if you're a step parent, your job is important. Love that child. Don't give up. Realize that your job is very, very important. So, that is the end of chapter 2. We're going to be starting with the John the Baptist. There's all kinds of stuff with John the Baptist too, so I'm looking forward to that. So, we finished up with the birth story in Matthew, which is probably one of my favorites. This is Luke, there are some in chapter 2 of Luke, but this is one of my favorites. So anyway, things are going well here. Hope you are doing well. Hope you are healthy. Keep wearing masks. Keep coming to church. Social distance. And just take care of yourself and know that you are loved. If you need to give me a call, 812-887-1472 or Peter D. Haskins at yahoo.com. So take care of yourselves, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye, and Merry Christmas.